Coach Jim Larranaga. Coach, could you begin with a statement, and then we'll take some questions.
How great are those kids? Their personalities, they're just so much fun to be around. They exude confidence in themselves, but they also believe in each other. And just listening to them, they're enjoying this experience, taking it all in, and I'm hoping the emotions of the size of the venue, that they'll be able to channel their emotions in the right direction, because they know this is a challenge to get to the Final Four. There are been a lot of great players, a lot of great teams that have never reached this point in their playing career or coaching career. So you got to appreciate every opportunity you get, and we're just looking forward to playing Saturday night.
Coach, we're going to begin on the right side of the room, just to the left of the aisle. Chris, let's get a microphone to Chris. This will be the back right microphone.
Thank you. Chris Bunnan with ESPN. Coach, we've seen a lot of great coaches step aside and retire over the last couple years. I'm curious for you, and you maybe just answered it talking about your players. What about this team? What about this sport still brings you joy?
You know, I might be 73 years old, but I think age is just a number. I just love doing what I'm doing. I love coaching basketball. I've done it for 51 years, and I hope to do it a lot longer. And what makes it so enjoyable are the players. And I tell the players all the time, the court is my classroom, and you are my students. And I'm going to teach you as much as I can, and learn as much as you can. Improve as much as you can, because all these guys want to play beyond college. They all want to be professional basketball players. And the best way to do that, no matter how good you are when you come into a college setting, is get better, improve, increase your stock, they say. So, but I enjoy the growth. If you look at an Isaiah Long, see where he was as a freshman and where he is now, you can't imagine it. I mean, the guy has gotten so much better in everything. And Wooga Poplar is on that same track. He didn't do as much as a freshman as he probably hoped for, but we could see his potential. And now he's demonstrating that. And by next year, he's going to be a monster.
Coach, we'll go to the third row on the left side. Dana?
Dana O'Neill at The Athletic. Along the lines of what Chris was asking you, there are a lot of people that are fed up or what have you with the profession and things like that, and don't feel like they are relevant or can stay relevant anymore. Why do you think that you can, and why aren't you fed up?
Well, my wife and I have been married for 51 years. I was an assistant coach to Terry Holland at both Davidson and Virginia for 10 years. And my wife and I learned from Terry and Ann Holland that if you can create a family atmosphere and have a great relationship with your players, you can have a great basketball program. And so when I got the opportunity to coach at Bowling Green and then George Mason and now Miami, my wife and I have just tried to make the players like a part of our family. My coaches a part of our family. We've enjoyed the relationship we've had with them on the court and off the court. And I haven't changed at all. I still teach the same things, the fundamentals of the game. We still adapt a lot of things, not changing, just, okay, adapting. We're going to play this ball screen differently, or we're going to attack this opponent differently. And I think the players, when they come in, they think they know everything about basketball, and they quickly find out, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't know about that. So they learn, they get better, and as a result, with these guys, they're like a sponge. They want to learn as much as they possibly can. And by doing that, the team has just gotten better and better from the start of the season till today.
Coach, we'll move one row back. Billy?
Billy Witz with the New York Times. The team's success the last couple of years and just what the women have done this year has really kind of shined a light on Miami too. And also just with what NIL has done. And just wondering if you can kind of characterize from your point of view of just how just the importance of having somebody in this era like John Ruiz and what that's been able to do for Miami athletics.
Yeah, you look at it a different way than I would look at it. I think the university made a decision over a year ago to provide the resources and support for all of our athletic teams. The president announced in an email that Rudy Fernandez and Joe Echeverria was going to take on more of a role when it came to athletics. And that role has turned out to be hugely successful because those guys have provided the resources for me, for Katie, for our football program, and our other athletic teams. I think the transfer portal has had a far greater impact because I don't think any of us would be here without the transfers. And what those guys are looking for is just a better landing spot. Some of them had, like Norshad Omir, had a great 2 years at Arkansas State, and Nigel Pack had great 2 years at Kansas State. But Nigel was looking to move to the point guard position. He wasn't going to be able to do that at Kansas State. We had Charlie Moore graduating, so he could look at our program and say, oh, I'm a really good fit. I'm like Charlie Moore. And he is. He can score like Charlie. He runs the team like Charlie. He's a great quarterback. And so he's fit that role and made himself very valuable. Norshad Omir, he went to high school. He went to Miami Prep. Our whole community is very, most of them are very Spanish speaking. Not me. I don't speak Spanish. I'm only Cuban, but I don't speak Spanish. But my point is, Norshad loved Miami when he was at Prep, and it was a natural for him to come back. But the thing that makes it me enjoy it so much is it's not about whether a kid transferred in or we recruited him out of high school or he got an NIL deal. Is my job is to coach them and make them the best basketball team they can be. And these guys have bought into everything that I consider to be the Miami way. This is the way we're going to do things. And it's never been an issue with not a single guy, not with our freshmen, sophomores, juniors, or seniors.
Second row center, Michelle.
Michelle Kaufman, Miami Herald. Jim, when you first came here, I remember you going into the dorms with pizzas, trying to get kids to pay attention to your program, and nobody was really paying attention, to be honest, or very few people. I'm just wondering if you could reflect a little on what it felt like yesterday to be like Moses parting the sea of fans. They had to have security moving people out of the way for you to get onto the bus. Can you just talk a little bit about the evolution of the, begging people to come and now having people, pushing you over to get on the bus?
I had the great privilege of being at the University of Virginia back in the early 80s with Ralph Sampson and Jeff Lamp and Rick Carlisle, Olden Polynice, great teams. We had great fan support. That watching Virginia, the way it operated, was very much first class. And I thought if I could ever get a head coaching job in the ACC, that's the way I would want to build our program and build up a fan base with the student support, with the community support. And so when my staff and I got there, my coaching staff and I discussed and go, okay, what are our steps? And I said, the first thing is we have to understand we have to recruit everybody, not just recruits, but fans. And my first week on the job, I went to Sir Pizza. Do you remember Sir Pizza right by Merrick Park? And 4 young men walked in. They were like teenage years, like 12, 13, 14. And I stopped eating my pizza and went over to them and said, hey, do you guys play basketball? And they all pointed to one young man. I said, you play basketball? And he said, yeah. I said, what's your name? He said, Matthew. I said, what's your last name? He said, Matthew Deutsch. Oh, I said, are you David Deutsch's son? He said, yeah. I said, well, you tell your dad to send you to my camp. That was one camper. A young lady, Kim Manor, came over to me and said, hey, I have a son. Can he come to your camp? I said, how old is he? She said 5, but he's a great athlete. And I said, well, my grandson's coming and he's 5, so they can be kind of friends. So they did. We tried to build the camp up. And my message was this to my staff and to the community. Look, we want you to join us. Our players coach the kids at camp. They're going to be friends. Come to our games. Buy season tickets. I said that every day. Buy season tickets. Buy season tickets. Come to our game. And so the players did. And I told them very, very clearly, if we win, I want want you to come down to the locker room and say hello to the guys who coached you this summer, the guys on the team that you're watching on TV. But if we lose, go home. Nobody wants to talk to you after a loss. And so we kept building. This year alone, we invited a Category 5, the Spirit Group. There were 80 members of our law school came to a practice. We had the band come to a practice just to watch and get to know our guys, and we ate a meal with them afterwards. Everything is about inclusion. So our job as coaches, I know it's to coach the sport, but it's really to be an ambassador for great universities. Miami's a great university, one of the top 50 schools in the country. The city is paradise. It's 75 degrees every day. I go for a walk and go for a smoothie every day just so I can sit on campus and look at the beautiful venue we live in. Did I answer your question? I don't even remember what you asked. Oh, yeah. So, what has happened through my 12 years is everything has grown in the right direction. We've got greater support for the program. We've got greater fans come to the program. More people are aware of us. We're in the great ACC. It's a great conference. And so the students really got behind us very early. And that's just grown and grown and grown. And now the community of Coral Gables, we have 5,000 tickets sold to come to Houston. 12 years ago, that wasn't even possible. But now everybody's behind us. We're going to have a great support come Saturday night.
Left side to the right of the aisle, Dan.
Dan Walken, USA Today. Jim, there was a time a year ago where Nigel was coming in, and then there was a comment attributed to Isaiah that he was maybe going to go in the portal. A lot of things were public, and maybe people looked at this and said, boy, this is the new world of college sports. It's going to be a nightmare. Why hasn't it been a nightmare for this team? And was there a point where you were worried just the public nature of all that might affect your locker room?
I honestly, no. Even when all that stuff was going on with Isaiah, he called me and said, Coach, I'm not going anywhere. He told me that. So what the public perception is not the reality. The reality is Nigel came on campus, went into the gym, Isaiah was there, they became best friends overnight. They clicked immediately. Why? They love basketball, they're gym rats, they love to compete, and they want to win. And so, for me, my job was easy. I just do what I do. I go into the gym and I coach them, and I don't worry about that other stuff. I know the media makes a bigger thing about that, and I think it's a misperception for our program. I don't know about other programs of how NIL affected them, but there has been not a single day of negativity in our program based on NIL.
Coach, we're going to move over to the right side.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, Coach. Luke Cheney with Lifehold Sports. Do you feel that you approached the tournament or the Final Four and the event itself any differently than you did in 2006? Or is that something that stayed consistent even now, 17 years later?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say I'm more patient right now than I was back then. I was probably a better dancer back then. But here's what I would say. In life, you learn every day. I read a lot. I try to learn and try to pass that along to our players. I'm always preaching the 7 habits of highly effective people. We have a philosophy based on attitude, commitment, and class that I'm preaching to the players all the time. Honestly, Luke, I feel like if all I ever did with my life was teach kids how to dribble, pass, and shoot, my life would not be very worthwhile. I feel like my job is to mentor them and to help prepare them when they're no longer playing basketball, to learn life skills, to develop their own philosophy, own values of the things that are important to them. That's what I learned from my high school coach, and he was my inspiration for wanting to get into coaching. And I have a lot of guys now who have played for me or worked for me that are doing great in coaching as well. So I feel like we're doing a good job.
Coach, we'll stay in that same area of the room.
Hey, Coach, Kevin Fielder from Owls 24/7. You went on that run in 2006. Now FAU's sort of going on their own run. How important can FAU's run be for basketball in South Florida, and how much can it do you think, for the university?
Yeah, we played them last year. Dusty May and his staff have done an incredible job. We were lucky to beat them by 2 at their place, and they've just grown from there. And as far as I'm concerned, I hope every 8 to 18-year-old that's still growing and trying to find a school, I hope they follow FAU and Miami during this Final Four and decide, I'm going to play basketball is going to be my primary sport. Because that's really how your sport really evolves. When the Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat, their franchises began, when was that, like 86 or something like that? Then all of a sudden basketball became a major sport in the state. And we have a lot of great young players in Coral Gables and in Miami that are going to be very highly recruited. And there's a lot of great players throughout the state. And this only enhances it. That their run and our run will make it, kids watching TV will make it like, man, I want to do that.
Coach, left side, left of the aisle.
Coach Mike Cunha, CBS News Miami. Off the top, you mentioned telling your players to stay in the moment and enjoy it. How are you staying in the moment and really savoring this trip?
Yeah, well, I'm with you guys. I like talking to the media. I get a chance to tell some stories about the guys I love. You know, these guys are so much fun to be around. Someone said to me, are you tired of this? I said, no, what could be better than having a conversation or meeting someone and telling them how much fun you're having. All right? And I hope you guys have fun covering us. You know, I want our players to enjoy this moment because you know what? It'll last a lifetime. 17 years ago, and you guys are still asking me about our run to the Final Four at George Mason. It never stops. For these guys, they'll be telling stories to their grandchildren, saying, oh man, I played in the Final Four. We went to Houston. Oh, like, yeah, did you win? That'll be what it's like. And so we're having a blast. I'm staying in the moment and just having fun with it.
We're going to go right of the aisle to Lane and then left of the aisle to Tom.
Hey, Coach L, this is Lane Higgins from the Wall Street Journal, and you made some comment sometime earlier in the tournament about how you're old, your players are not old, they're experienced. But, you know, in that end, even though they are maybe upperclassmen, juniors, and seniors, like, you're not getting any closer in age to your players, and yet technology is probably making that gap a little bit more felt. So how do you still relate to these guys that are 18, 19, 20? And, like, is Wooga showing you TikTok dances? Like, what sort of stuff is happening that helps bridge that gap?
Yeah, I just think my relationship with my players is all been based on love. I love the guys I've coached. Someone was talking to a few of my former players back in my George Mason days, Tremaine Price and George Evans, and they were asked the difference, and Tremaine said, yeah, his dancing's gotten worse. So I just think when you care about people and they know you care about them and you try to help them in every way you can, you know, you're sharing meals with them, you're traveling on airplanes, on buses, and, you know, I haven't changed. If anything, I've gotten a little more patient and a little calmer. But other than that, I'm still the same guy I was when I got my first head coaching job at 36.
Left of the aisle, Tom.
Angelo, Palm Beach Post. Do you see parallels between 2006 George Mason and FAU this year? And is there any more of a sense of accomplishment or joy when you take a program like that, a mid-major, to this venue?
Yeah, well, first of all, the tag mid-major means nothing to me because I think anybody that makes the dance is good. 68 teams, all you got to look at the upsets and say, what, that team was no good, but they still won? No, they're good. But the matchup, how you match up with an opponent, how you can attack their defense and defend their players is huge. Sometimes you match up very well and sometimes you don't. FAU's run, yes, is very similar to George Mason's because no one anticipated it. When we got at George Mason, they didn't even think we'd get invited. We were 11th seed. Everybody thought we'd get crushed by Michigan State in the first round. in FAU's case, I can't believe anybody thought they couldn't get here. They had over 30 wins. I mean, you can't win 30 games in college basketball. The parity in college basketball now is at the highest it's ever been. And that's due to the transfer portal. Because guys are going from, let's say a kid is a really good ACC player, but he doesn't get the playing time he's looking for. All right? So he transfers to a mid-major, and now all of a sudden he's the key cog in them getting to the next step. Or like we see in the ACC, some guy has a great career in the mid-major, but he's got one more year of eligibility and transfers to the ACC, and he fits beautifully into that team and helps them get to the national championship game like Brady Manick did last year with Carolina. There are just so many. The game of basketball is about synergy, about guys working together. You've got to develop that chemistry, and it helps if you have it on the court and off the court.
Up front, on the left.
Hey, Coach. Josh Moser from Fox in Miami. Great to be here. Great to see you in person. You see that smile right there. Just how much fun are you having?
Yeah. For a basketball coach, the Final Four is the dream, And when I was a player, I dreamt about playing in the Final Four. And if we had beaten Villanova at Villanova in my senior year, we had a player named Ernie DiGregorio who missed a free throw when we were up one, and Villanova scored at the buzzer. So we went to the NIT, and Villanova went to the national championship game. I looked at that and said, dang, that could have been us. When I got into coaching, it was, I hope that can be us. When I got to Virginia, it was us twice, 81 and 84. When I got to George Mason, I was interviewing assistant coaches for a position I had open, and one of the guys who applied for the job said to me, I really want to come here because I know you help your assistants, and I really want to get to the ACC or Big East so I can get to the Final Four. And then I told a friend of mine, well, he's out. And he said, why? I said, because I want him to help George Mason get to the Final Four. 2 years later, we did.
On the right side, third row.
Hey, Jim. Luke Deacock, Raleigh News and Observer. You were asked earlier about, especially in the ACC, the number of sort of coaches who have moved on in the last 2 years. You were very vocal last spring about how you felt like the league had been shortchanged a bit. Do you feel more of an obligation now to speak about things like that than you did when there were sort of more of your peers who had that sort of pulpit?
I just feel anybody associated with the ACC should be blowing our horn. Because I've been disappointed the last 2 years we've only got 5 teams in. Because I've had to compete against those coaches and teams and know how good they are. But I also know the parity in that other teams can advance in the NCAA tournament and deserve a shot. So my answer to really the question is, let's expand the NCAA tournament to at least 96 teams. Because there's just so many more good teams. Oh, no, they're average. No, you get into the big dance, you're good. And you can see the different leagues. You look at what North Texas and UAB are getting ready to play for the NIT championship. Right? Isn't that FAU's league? Come on. Their league is good. Our league is good. I coached at Bowling Green. The Mid-American Conference was very good. So expand the dance and let's have more kids experience the fun of competing in the NCAA tournament and be a part of March Madness.
Second row.
Adam Betts with the Journal-Inquirer. Coach, obviously you played UConn in that 2006 run at George Mason. Do you remember anything about that game at all? Or everything about that game?
I remember what do you want to know? We were down 12 with 12 seconds to go in the first half. We following Campbell, drove to the basket, got fouled by their backup center. I can't remember his name. Big, strong kid. Got fouled. He made the layup, made the free throw. We're down 9. And I went into the locker room, and I quite frankly just said to the players, we got these guys right where we want them. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, they think this game is over. They're ahead, and there's no stopping them. We've just begun to play. We're going to make a couple of adjustments in our offense and defense and just go out and execute the game plan. And we did. Lamar Butler made a three-pointer, got fouled on it. We cut the lead. We tied the game up. And then it went back and forth. And then we were up to 76-74 or 74-72. And they made a fast break layup after a missed free throw to tie the game and put it in overtime, and everybody thought, okay, now George Mason is done for. But our guys rose to the occasion, executed beautifully at both ends, and we were able to win in overtime.
We want to thank Coach Larranaga for joining us here in the
Thanks,
main
everybody.
interview room. Coach, we'll see you again tomorrow.